Welcome to the Freedom Shift talk geared towards developers on the path to becoming an independent consultant. My name is Jay Harris. I am, or was, an independent consultant, depending on how you want to look at it. I am a software developer from Las Vegas, Nevada. I used to be from around here, but I've been in Las Vegas for about 7 years now, 2017, where I am also president of my own company, Arana Software, a software consultancy where we say we mindfully blend the human element of building the right thing with the technical element of building the thing right. I started Arana Software 15 years ago now. Doesn't quite seem like it's been that long. But I guess that's a good thing. That means that I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the business that I have. And this presentation, this talk, is from a lot of those lessons learned, and from lessons learned of many of my friends and colleagues that have also spent time as an independent consultant. And of course, from not just being a software developer, because I have my own business now. I don't get to be just a software developer. I'm also a project manager. I'm also a business analyst. I'm also responsible for running the business and responsible for staff and the finances and the sales pipeline. But one thing I am not is I'm not an attorney. I am not an accountant. I am not an insurance agent. So none of this constitutes professional advice, the disclaimer that needs to go on all talks like this. So I guess treat this advice with the same regard that you would treat your 5-year-old that's talking about their invisible friend, or from, I don't know, the drunk uncle at your family reunions. Take this with a grain of salt, and for a lot of things, especially when it comes to those aspects, the legal stuff, the accounting stuff, the insurance stuff, get some verification and validation, some input from the professionals in those fields. But we're going to be covering a lot of aspects about a business, about starting a business. Certainly we're going to be talking about how to establish the business, how to name it, how to brand it. We're going to be talking about the structures of your business, such as the attorneys and the accountants and business and medical insurance. We're going to be talking about how to manage and protect your money and your time, how to maintain the success of your business, including marketing, including the sales pipeline, including your business's growth. But most importantly, we're going to address that shift, that freedom shift to independent life. Whether you're an employee or an independent, neither of those options is good or evil. Neither is without stressors or expectations. Neither is without the advantages or drawbacks. Independence is not some awesome freedom, some rebel alliance that you can go and join and fight the bad guys, free from the dark side of the evil corporations and liberty from the servitude to the corner office. Transitioning from employment to independent life isn't a freedom quest, it's merely a freedom shift. But it's your career. This is one of those choose-your-own-adventure books like we could pick up from the library for when we were kids. You are the star of this show. It is your path. It's your path to walk. Others can do it with you. None can do it for you. Some paths, like in the book, some paths lead to success and fortune. Some paths lead to failure. Some paths just leave you staring off into the horizon, wondering what you've done, scratching your head. But here we are. The freedom shift. A developer's path to independent consultant. Most importantly, we need to understand those shifts. An endless sea of shifts. And again, they're not freedoms, they're just shifts in flexibility, shifts in opportunity, shifts in responsibility. Sure, becoming an independent developer, becoming an independent consultant, you gain a lot of additional flexibility. Me, if I wanted to call it a day at 3 p.m. on any random Tuesday and go play Xbox for a few hours, I can completely do so. If I want to not work at all today, I can completely do so. As an independent, I don't have to get anybody's permission to go on vacation or to take a day off. I get to set my own schedule. I get to define my own hours. As an independent consultant, that's even a part of the legal definition of what an independent consultant is. I get to define the how and the when. My clients decide the what. This is what we want you to build, Jay. But they don't get to define the hours that I work. I get to do that. I get to say these are when I'm available. But with that flexibility comes the cost of flexibility. I myself have to be flexible. I could say that I'm going to be working on this coding problem today, and then the world blows up. My hair is on fire, and I don't end up touching code at all today. I'm instead fighting other fires, or working on the sales pipeline, or working on the business, or managing data that I got to get to the attorney or to my accountant. The flexibility of not having a schedule also comes with inevitably an inability to really have a schedule. The same with the opportunities. There are so many more opportunities available to me as an independent, but they're also forced upon me. There's career growth because there has to be. I must learn a lot about what it means to be a business owner. I must learn what it takes to do sales and marketing, because all of that stuff falls on me now. So, how do we get started? Well, of course, anybody will say, step one is go down to the Secretary of State, file your new business. Create J. Harris Consulting. Whatever you want to call your business. Don't do that. That's not where it begins. Your story begins much, much earlier than that. So we need to back up. First, you must find your why. This is your most important step. This is where you begin. This is your step one. Why do you want to be independent? What is the benefit of being an independent consultant? And more importantly, what is the benefit to you? What is your why for doing this? It's the most important question, and it doesn't need to be a logical answer. It doesn't need to make sense to others. It doesn't need to make sense to anybody but you, just you. It needs to be your why. Maybe it's money. Okay, if that's your reason, cool. It just needs to make sense to you, just like deciding to join the gym or to take up Taekwondo or moving to Las Vegas. It doesn't matter if anybody else is going to move to Las Vegas. I moved to Las Vegas because I wanted to, because I made that decision and I had my whys that mattered to me. Others don't need to do it. Others don't even need to agree with it. It's your path and yours alone, your reason. But you must have a reason. Take some time and figure out genuinely, authentically, what that reason is. Then we can move to step two, satisfying the requirements. Unfortunately, this isn't something that, well, you either do or you don't meet those requirements. This is something that you can work toward. You just need to know what they are. So there are several, I'd call them prerequisites for being independent and having your own business. First and foremost, the number one thing for any of those prerequisites is your tolerance for risk. You need to be able to manage yourself. Certainly, if you can't manage yourself, you're going to have a real tough time managing a business. You need to have tolerance for risk. That's not to say that you're looking for risk. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're an adrenaline junkie and always jumping on roller coasters and diving out of perfectly good airplanes. You just need to have that tolerance for risk. But this also applies to your household. Your household must also have a tolerance for risk. I would argue that the number one thing that would get in your way for being successful as an independent consultant is having a partner in your household that is not risk tolerant. Because there's going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be great windfall times, and there's going to be times of great struggle. That consistent paycheck is going to be a thing of the past, at least when you first start out. There'll be times where you're making a lot of money, and there's going to be times where you're not making any at all. And that all comes with that risk tolerance, with that planning, with that ability to manage yourself. Not, things like not spending all of that money that you have right now because it's there, because it might be a struggle in a couple months, and it would have been really good to have a little bit of a rainy day fund, a little bit of a nest egg, some savings built up to get you through those times of famine. Second, you have to have a delegation mindset. Because time is important. As Tony Stark and Howard Stark said, no amount of money ever bought a second of time. You need to be able to delegate. There are things that you are not best at, and you need to let others that are better than you at those things do those things. You don't need to control every single situation in this endeavor, in this adventure, in this business. For example, legal aspects. Leave that to the lawyers. All of your accounting, your taxes. I can file my own taxes, but I'm not going to. I was having lunch with Mike yesterday, and he brought up a great point, that I can file my own taxes, but I don't, because if something happens and the IRS decides to come knocking on my door, I want that professional's signature on it. My accountant knows what they did with all of that filing. My accountant can stand behind that filing. I have confidence that there were fewer mistakes, even if the numbers were exactly the same, between when they filed it or if I filed it myself. They know what to do when the IRS comes calling. I don't. Delegate those tasks to the people that are better suited and better situated to handle those things. Number 3 of the prerequisites, you need to be comfortable interacting with others. This includes not just having hallway conversations, but this includes the collaboration, and this includes being able to assign tasks to others. At the end of the day, that's what delegation is, right? You need to be able to clearly and eloquently communicate with others, to communicate with your attorney on what sort of contract that you're looking for, or what your goals are with your accountant for your business finances. You need to be able to comfortably interact with others. Fourth, you need to be liberal with your money. That's not to say you need to be reckless with your money. You need to be liberal with your money. Spending money makes money, particularly in the business world. And this relates to all of the prerequisites prior. I think you'll find that as you start your own business, you'll probably even start applying those things to your personal life, like maybe hiring someone that mows your lawn every single week instead of doing it yourself. Sure, you can save a few dollars and go sit on that riding lawnmower for 2 hours and drink a beer and do it yourself, or you can pay someone $40 a week to go mow the lawn. And maybe instead you spend 1 hour instead of the 2 on the lawnmower, just 1 hour doing billable work. And I assure you, your hour of billable effort as an independent software developer is going to be higher than how much you just paid the lawnmower. So you made money doing it. Spend a little money to make even more money. And then number 5, you need to be able to question everything. Not for critique, not to criticize, but to understand. Forget everything that you've been told about running your own business, at least temporarily until you fully understand it. If you're told something about a business, ask questions, be curious. Be like Ted Lasso. Why? What are the consequences if I do this thing, as well as what are the benefits of if I do this thing? And if I don't, what are the benefits and consequences of not doing the thing? Question it all for full understanding. Like, as an example, one of the things that is often told people, especially people going out on their own as an independent consultant, is to deduct your home office. Take that tax break and deduct your home office. Then a portion of your mortgage can be a write-off and an expense and save you a little bit of money. Sure. But it's also under the assumption that that office space that you've written out is dedicated to your business. So if you post on social media a picture of you in your office and there's a bunch of kid toys and you're using it as a playroom, well, it's not exclusively for your business. That gives the IRS an opportunity to come knocking on your door. Or let's say there's a tragedy and your house burns down. Well, if you've expensed a portion of your business, a lot of insurance companies will consider your business a renter of your home office. You are writing off that office space. Did you get renter's insurance for your office? Because most people, I'm sure many of you at least, had spent some time living in an apartment and had renter's insurance, and you know that if the apartment complex burns to the ground, that doesn't cover any of your stuff that's in their office. So if your house burns down that you're renting from as a business owner, is your homeowner's insurance going to cover all of the business equipment and possessions, the assets, the furniture that were lost in the fire? So, sure, you may save a few dollars on your tax return, but understand all of the consequences that go along with that. Question everything. Number 3, understanding your finances. This is the most common question when we try and figure out what our finances are. What bill rate should I have? What's a good, productive billing rate? And there's plenty of advice on how to figure out what that billable rate is. Most common thing that I heard is take your salary and divide it by 2,000, because there's roughly 2,000 hours in our work year. 40 hours a week times 52 weeks, it's 2,080, but we can round it to 2,000, right? So take your salary and divide it by 2,000, and that is a wonderful way to fail quickly. Instead, we need to realize that an effective hourly rate is the revenue that we need to hit divided by the number of billable hours that we're actually going to have in a year. So let's dig into those. Let's start with our billable hours. Of course, we have 2,080 hours, working hours in a year. 40 hours a week times 52 weeks a year. 2,080. No need to round it down to 2,000 on this one. Then we have New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, and the day after, Black Friday, and Christmas Day. That's 7 holidays. A lot of companies have 10. Us at Arana Software, we have 15, because if we observe all of the state and federal holidays. Federal holidays, Martin Luther King Day, Washington's birthday, Juneteenth, Veterans Day, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. Nevada Day is a state holiday. It's the last Friday in October in honor of the anniversary of the day that Nevada joined the Union. Also happens to be Halloween, so it's a fun 3-day weekend for Halloween. And we also have your birthday, whatever your birthday happens to be, as a day that you're automatically going to have off. So 15 days, but a lot of companies have 10, 80 hours that we got to calculate into this number of billable hours per year. A week of sick time, you're probably going to get sick. Or many of us in the workforce, we're parents, so our kids will be sick. And even though we're healthy, our kids are sick, and we're probably going to be home managing the flu or some sort of stomach bug for our little ones. Vacation time, we'll toss in 120 hours for 3 weeks of vacation. That already brings us down to 1,840. But you're not even going to be billable all of that time, because that's just the time that you're in the office doing work. But it's not going to be just coding anymore. So you're going to need some more time for running the business, for talking with your attorney, with getting tax information and expenses to your accountant, to doing sales and marketing, and having other discussions that aren't billable stuff. So realistically, you're looking at 1,500, maybe 1,600 hours per year in billable time. That's pretty normal for a business. Now let's look at the other side, the revenue. Of course, we can begin with our base salary. Let's say for easy round numbers that your base salary is $100,000 a year. Regardless of what it is, it's a good round number for us to do some math against. Well, we're going to start with a little over 7% in FICA. We have to add on all of those taxes that come off of your paycheck. Your employer also has to pay some portion of your taxes. Especially just for Social Security and Medicare, that's going to be about 15% of the total cost as a part of your total compensation package from your employer. Half of that is yours as an employee, and half of that is your employer, so about 7.5% each. If you choose to not be an employee of your own company, you still have to pay the entire 15%. So this extra 7.5% that you're not paying now as an employee is still there. It's still as a cost. So we automatically have to have that. We're also going to need to have some sort of expenses for even processing all of that payroll, setting all that up. We'll call it $600 for just one person. Of course, that's going to change from one payroll company to the next and how often you decide to pay yourself. We're going to need probably around, again, for round numbers, $20,000 for the year in benefits. Because certainly you're still going to want benefits. Your employer's not going to be covering those packages anymore, so you're going to have to do it as an independent. Things like your medical insurance or your dental insurance, or maybe you decide to set up a 401k so that you can contribute to your own retirement and have the tax benefits that come with contributing to a 401k. So those options are available to you, about $20,000 for benefits. Beyond that, we'll certainly need business insurance, just like you need medical insurance for your own health. You need insurance for your business's health as well. This covers things from, hey, I messed up in a contract and got sued over my contract, errors and omissions or liability insurance, or things like someone came over to your office and they tripped on the ice and broke their leg, and now they're coming after you to cover those medical expenses. All of those things, all the way through workers' compensation, which, depending on the state, you may or may not have to pay even for just yourself. So you'll have expenses on insurance. You'll also have plenty of other expenses for buying computers, buying furniture, covering utilities like electricity or the internet bill. You'll have other expenses like your attorneys and your accountants. You'll need some profit. 180% of that base salary is a good mark to judge against. So if your base salary is $100,000, we're now talking about $180,000 in total revenue to be able to hit that same mark. Now, but profit? I'm on my own. Why do I need to have profit? It's not like I have some employees and I'm looking to make some profit off of them. You still need to have profit for you. Think about your home budget that you have on the personal side. I hope that you have a budget. And with that budget, I hope that that budget is not exactly matching what your paycheck is, your salaried paycheck, week over week or month over month. I'm assuming that there's some wiggle room. That extra will go into your savings. That extra might go into an investment fund. That extra might go into some sort of nest egg, some rainy day fund for if things go sideways or you have some sort of emergency. Businesses call that profit. The extra that's left over after all of the expenses are handled. And you will need that too, even as an independent consultant. Because some days you won't have any projects in the pipeline. Some days you're going to be spending way more effort trying to fill that pipeline than you're going to be working on already existing signed billable work. And that's where the profit comes in, to help cover those troughs, those the famine side that matches the feast of where you're making plenty of money. So, that billable rate, to figure it out, revenue over a number of billable hours, which of course we can turn the revenue into whatever your base salary is times 1.8 for 180%, and we can convert that billable hours. We'll take the conservative side of 1,500. There's your formula for figuring out what a starting billable rate is for your company. But just starting. Because one absolute piece of advice I have for helping you establish your billable rate is if no one ever says no to your billable rate, it's not high enough. If no one says no, your rate is not high enough. So keep increasing your bill rate until someone says no. Because unfortunately, things like imposter syndrome are going to kick in. We're not good judges of our own value. We are horrible judges of our own value. But the rest of the world and our clients, they certainly are much better at assessing what our value is objectively. So keep increasing that bill rate until people say no. Step 4, understanding marketing. How are you going to market yourself? Well, always. It's a little bit dated now, but there's a good movie, Glengarry Glen Ross, where in it there's a scene with Alec Baldwin where he talks about always be closing. ABC, always be closing. And you'll find as an independent consultant that you're doing exactly that. You are always closing. You are always marketing yourself. You are always presenting a positive attitude, a positive reputation. You're always closing. You're always looking for new work. And starting those first projects, a lot of people say, hey, I don't know, go find some work somewhere, like talking to your HOA or your local church. No. Horrible place to start. No. Go back to that billable rate equation. If your base salary is $100,000 an hour, times 1.8 divided by 1,500 is $120 an hour. That's really a reasonable starting rate. Minimum. There aren't a lot of homeowners associations and churches that are really going to be cool with paying you $120 an hour. It's just not in the budget. So find some place that's more effective and more appropriate for your services. You can do that by establishing presence. Like having a website. Your website should be something that's easy to maintain, not something that's fun to work on. Let's start there. Your website should be something that's easy for you to maintain, easy for you to add to, easy for you to modify its content, not something that's just a fun passion project. So, WordPress, Wix.com, that's where your website should be. Not Jekyll or some other fun little coding thing that I can work on and commit into source code, and that's what GitHub uses. Sure, those are cool and those are fun. They're not effective for managing your business. You want to have something that you spend as absolute little time as possible to maintain, to get the biggest amount of return that you can get. Because building your website is not billable time. Building your website is that 300 hours of running the business, and you want to try and keep that 300 hours as small as possible. Social media for your presence. Be active on social media, especially LinkedIn. I know a lot of us developers were like, LinkedIn, oh my, just want to facepalm over LinkedIn. But really, LinkedIn. Network on LinkedIn. Engage on LinkedIn. One of the best pieces of advice, I should add it to a later slide on here, one of the best pieces of advice that I ever received from a business colleague back in Las Vegas, his name is Devin Weissen. Great guy. He's in the financial space with Forthright Partners. He says, do things and then tell people you did things. What he means by that is get yourself out in the community, get yourself out active in the world, and document, if you will, that you did something. Take pictures. Be like, hey, I'm Jay Harris, and I just presented at Stir Trek, and put that stuff out there on social media, out there on LinkedIn. Show people that you did things. Have that presence. Your local chamber is also a good opportunity. Joining your local chamber. If you're here in Columbus, join the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. Las Vegas, join the Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce. And participate in the things. Go to the events. Show up. Be a part of that business community, not just the technical community that we have here, though this is valuable too, but you're already here, so I can see that you got that part covered. So also do similar things in the business world, like through your Chamber of Commerce. And from that, you'll find support. There are other opportunities as well, things like finding other people that you can confide in that are also in a similar space, maybe also becoming an independent consultant. Find that mastermind group where you can really share that information with. Years ago, when I started Arana Software, Mike Eaton and I were two members of a mastermind group. It was one of the most valuable contributions to the success of Arana. Me not just existing all in complete isolation and trying to figure out all of this business stuff for the first time on my own. Having other people to collaborate with and bounce ideas off us and, hey, what do you think of this bill rate formula? And hey, what do you think about joining the chamber? And hey, this is some sort of really pain that I'm having with this one client because they're not paying me. What do y'all have any advice if you encountered any of that? What can I do? Find that support. And through that support, you get a lot of word-of-mouth marketing, especially at the beginning. Word-of-mouth marketing is number one. A lot of the other big consultancies around, like Improving, they have big budgets to sponsor conferences and put their ads in magazines. And from a marketing perspective, you're not going to compete with that. But you can certainly compete from word-of-mouth marketing. But word-of-mouth marketing it doesn't scale well. Not when it's just you. When it's just you talking about, hey, I'm Jay Harris, and I started my own business, and we do some web consulting where we mindfully blend the human element of building the right thing with the technical element of building the thing right. I can talk about that all day long, but if it's just me saying those words, it doesn't have the same amount of reach. It doesn't have the same amount of value. So, all of those things of presence and my network, they say that stuff for me. Hey, you should talk to Jay. He does some really great stuff with web development. He can help you out. So that you're always closing. And so that other people are also closing you on your behalf. Now, number 5. This thing that you're talking about doing, now that you have some sort of support structures in place, now that you understand your finances, you have your why, you have some basic idea of what you're going to do to market yourself, you've begun to establish a network on who you are, give this thing an identity. I recommend it not be named after you. Give it a name. Give it a real name. Figure out something that works with you, something that resonates with you. For us, well, I'm working on being fully bilingual in Spanish. I've been studying Spanish since I was quite small. 7 years old, 6 years old, somewhere in there, I started taking Spanish class. When I was about 10 years old, I even spent an entire summer living in Cuernavaca, Mexico. I like Spanish. I also like spiders. And I was building a web consulting company, and I thought that it was pretty cool to, name it something along those lines. So the Spanish word for a spider is araña. And that's where we got it from. English doesn't really have the tilde over the end, so we anglicized the word, got rid of the tilde, and just made it a regular N, and araña became arana, and we were off to the races. Most important thing, though, the domain was available. That's a key. Find a .com. No, really. Find a .com that's available. What, I can get a .io? Okay, cool, that's nice. I can get .online. I can get a Ronasoft.Vegas, since Vegas is a top-level domain extension now. I don't, because my clients aren't really that technical the majority of the time. Why should they be? I'm the technical person. They're coming to me to do that stuff. They don't need to be technical. My mother, she doesn't know much about the internet. My mother thinks most every domain name ends in .com. And a lot of people think that way, and that's okay. So, make it easier for people to find you. Start there with the .com. And give it a logo. Put some time, spend some money, be liberal with your money, spend some money and get a logo built out. I don't care if you're going on, 99 Designs. I don't care if you're going on Fiverr. Get a couple of designs. Don't just find one person on Fiverr and make a design. Get a few different designs. Put some thought into what you want. Make sure that that design is built against whatever name, whatever brand, whatever persona you want this company to be. But give it an identity, not just a name. The domain name has to match, has to be consumable and discoverable by your users. Give it a logo. With this logo, we even have our own custom font. The ARANA is a Rana font. We even built our own font with this identity. It's ours. No one else can use it. So you see that letter form? You know it's us, in addition to just the logo by itself. Step 6, find an attorney. Find an attorney. Find an attorney. Find an attorney that you can trust, preferably one that has experience in technology. Arana's attorney, even though we're headquartered in Las Vegas now, it was founded in Michigan, so we are still a Michigan company, a Michigan LLC. Our attorney is in Grand Rapids, Elliot Church. He works for Christ Enderly, Hudgens, and Borsos in Grand Rapids. He's been our attorney for almost 15 years now. Formerly, he was a software engineer. He understands the space. He worked in that space for several years before he decided, you know what, I'm going to be an attorney. But of course, all of that brain matter still stuck with him about the engineering space. He still does work in technology space. He geeks out over big data. He's huge about big data, loves it. So he's still in that space, and he understands all of the intricacies that go into the legal world, specifically with respect to technology. Find somebody like Elliot Church. Because one of the most important cornerstones of your business is contracts. Always have a contract. Do zero work without having a signature in place. How much work should you do without having a contract? Zero. Always have a contract. Always. At minimum, you're probably going to need 3 different types of contracts. You're going to need your NDA, your non-disclosure agreement. This is commonly going to be used when you're first establishing a relationship with a client, but they're not signed for project work yet. You're going through that discovery, through that honeymoon. Hey, we want to figure each other out. Jay, I'd really like to talk to you about what we're working on, but it's all confidential stuff. So let's have an NDA in place so I'm comfortable talking to Arana Software about all of the things that we're going to build, and we can figure out if we're a good fit. So the NDA is number one. Number two, the MSA, the Master Services Agreement. And this also, the MSA, tightly pairs with number three, the Statement of Work, the SOW. Generally, you're going to have an MSA, the Master Services Agreement, as an umbrella contract for the engagement. It covers all of the base rules of the relationship. Your SOW is going to cover the requirements and services and deliverables for a specific project. But certainly, every project is going to have some set of rules that are always the same, like how often you invoice, or hey, if we want to divorce from each other, what are the terms for separation? Or, okay, you've written this thing for us, Jay, and how do we transfer that intellectual property over to the client? Those terms, the things about invoicing, the things about the term, the things about intellectual property, those are going to be consistent across all of your projects. So your MSA will cover those global terms so that you don't have to repeat them on every single new project. And then the SOW will just be a subcomponent, we'll call it. It'll attach to the MSA. Say, hey, this all follows under the rules of the MSA that we signed on this date. And the SOW will cover all of the specifics of this one project. We're going to do this stuff, and we're going to deliver these things. We're going to provide these services. It's going to take us this amount of time, and it's going to cost this many dollars. That's your SOW. But certainly, there's going to be some aspects of intellectual property that are going to be unique to a technology business, which is why it's important to find an attorney that has some experience in technology. This isn't like writing a book where some ghostwriter can write a book for you and then, hey, we're done, here you go, here's the entirety of the book and its intellectual property transfers over to the client and they now own 100% of the book. Software doesn't work that way. Because jQuery, I don't own jQuery. But still, it's, a website. So many of our projects use jQuery or some sort of other JavaScript library. We're primarily a .NET shop, and the .NET framework itself is open source. So all of that is things that I don't own. Microsoft owns that. It's not all mine to give. So I can't just go with the generic, like I was writing a book, some sort of work for hire, and transfer 100% of this stuff because it's not mine. I don't own it all, so it's not all mine to transfer. And also, some of the stuff you may want to and should keep for yourself. Almost every developer has their own set of, their own toolbox, their own snippets of code that they seem to use over and over and over and over and over and over again on all of these different projects. That's yours. And you might want to use it on this client's project because, I don't know, how often do you have to write an authentication system? Everybody's login and password authentication system is the same. You still have to write all of the glue yourself to glue it up into, OIDC or Active Directory or whatever your authentication system. But really, it's the same every single time. How often do you need to write those 20 lines of code? Well, if you own it, if it's yours, you get to keep it, and you can copy-paste that to every client. But if it all transfers to be theirs, you can't do that anymore. Now you got to rewrite it from scratch. You're not even really technically, legally allowed to look at the old stuff because it's not yours. It's theirs. You have to rewrite this from scratch and from memory and do all of the research yourself again, and that would be horrible. So, intellectual property should certainly be a case where some of the stuff stays yours. Our contract says if it's not core business to the client, it's ours. Of course, we license it to them permanently, irrevocably, forever, at zero cost, so they can use it, they can modify it further, they can do whatever they want with it. But the copyright is still ours so that we can reuse it with other clients. Your contract should certainly have things about an exit strategy and a kill fee. Know a way out. Always have it. One of the great benefits of being an independent consultant is you can fire your clients. I mean, yeah, we can as employees. We can always quit, resign. But we don't really feel that we can resign or quit from our employers. That's a bigger thing. But it's certainly a much more available option to you as an independent consultant, is to walk away. There's going to be times when one or both parties have decided that this is time, the engagement has run its course, we need to split. So have an exit strategy. Also have a kill fee. What a kill fee is because it gives your clients an easy way out. A lot of times that separation agreement will say some period of time, hey, we're going to give you notice that we're done. We want to exit now, so this is our notice. Maybe it's going to be 60 days. You have 60 days from now, we're going to begin our wrap up, or ramp down, and we're going to exit this engagement, and we'll be done on the 3rd of July, 60 days from now. Whatever your 60 days is. But sometimes things will happen on the business side, on the client side, that really doesn't work with. Maybe they get a new executive, and the executive decides, you know what, this project is not benefiting us at all, so this project, sorry, Rana, but this project just needs to go. Or maybe a different executive has stepped in and said, you know what, we want to pull all of this stuff in-house, so anybody that's an external contractor or external consultant, they need to go, because we're going to lay off all of the contractors and consultants before we lay off any employees. Because laying off 1099s doesn't make the news, but laying off employees does. So maybe they just, for budget reasons, they need to sever the contract, even though they really liked what you were doing and they really, really need that project. There's other things in the way. But having that be 60 days from now doesn't really work. It needs to be now. So that's where a kill fee would come in. We can terminate this immediately, and you have to pay me some sort of dollars. Maybe it would be, I don't know, let's say 50% of what you would have paid me in that time, whatever your exit timeline is, your 60 days. So 50% of whatever you would have normally paid me in those 60 days, just pay me that and we're done immediately. As an example, a kill fee. Do not call it a penalty. Don't ever call it a penalty. A judge assesses the penalty, not you. If it's in your contract as a penalty, it can absolutely be stricken and invalidated. That's part of why you need an attorney, because if you wanted to draft this thing all yourself and Jay Harris says, I need a kill penalty, so I'm going to call it a penalty, and then they signed it, well, you don't really have a kill fee. Give it to the attorney, and the attorney is going to go, oh, step one, we need to change this name from a kill penalty into a kill fee. Always have an attorney. And a collection strategy needs to be in there as well, because you absolutely, irrefutably, without a doubt, will have clients that don't pay. Walk around this conference and find all of the other people that have been or are independent consultants, and every single one of them will have a story to share with you about a client that didn't pay. So your contract automatically, absolutely, needs to have a collection strategy of what to do, what are the repercussions, what's the recourse for if your clients don't pay. But have it professionally made. This isn't something that you go talk to your friends that are independent consultants already and get a copy of their master services agreement and sort of cut and paste and glue together what you think works for you and have your client sign it. No, that's a good way to get all of those various clauses stricken by a judge, because they're not legally enforceable anyway, especially in your state. If you used a friend that was in, I don't know, Michigan, Oklahoma, Washington, they have different laws. So have this thing professionally made. Even if you do take the time to collect stuff from your friends for ideas and glue stuff together, take that stuff that you've glued together, send it off to your attorney and say, hey, Elliot, this is what I was thinking. What do you think of this? What can we do here? And how do we make all of this stuff apply to my state's laws? Always have it professionally made. But always have a contract. How much work do you do without a contract? Zero. Because all of that stuff doesn't matter if you don't have a contract. That collection strategy of your clients not paying you does not exist if you don't have a contract. They got their stuff, they have their project, you have no recourse, and they don't have to pay you because you didn't have a contract. Number 7, understand the structure of your business. There are 3 primary types of structure that you can use for creating this business. A sole proprietorship, an LLC, a limited liability company, or be incorporated, a full-on corporation. There are some other subclassifications in there, like a C Corp or an S Corp that impact tax purposes, but the primary thing behind all of these is a legal aspect, is the liability shield. For my recommendations and for what Arana is an LLC. It's taxed like an S-type corporation. What that means, an S-type corporation, at the end of the day, at the end of the year, the end of the tax year, all of the profit falls to the owners of the corporation rather than staying in the corporation. If you're a C-type corporation, the corporation has to pay taxes on all of its profit. And then it can pay its employees, which includes the shareholders and the owners, and then the owners would have to pay taxes again on top of that money. S-types don't have that. Of course, get all of this stuff verified by your accountant. Arana is an LLC taxed as an S-corp. Really recommend, no matter what you do, what you choose, don't go with a sole proprietorship. Again, this is first and foremost about a liability shield. And what I mean by that is protecting your house. Because just like your clients are going to screw up, like not paying you, there's going to be times where you screw up. And a client might come after you. Maybe they want a refund. Maybe you don't have the money for the refund. With a liability shield in place, once the company is out of money, the company can go bankrupt and that's it. They can't touch your stuff. If there's no liability shield in there, now they can come after you individually and your stuff, like your car and your house. They can take your house because they need to get their money back. That's not a good idea. So put those protections in place. And of course, seek out an accountant and an attorney for both of those. And then we get to step 8. File your business. We know we've given it an identity. We know what the name is going to be. We have all of our accountants, all of our attorneys in place. We've figured out the tax and legal structure that we want for our business. Again, like Arana being an S-type LLC. And now we can fill out all of the forms and go to the Secretary of State and start our business. All right. Closing out with some general advice for running a business. I call it Jay Harris's rules. Have been some really good pieces of advice that I've collected over the years from various friends and colleagues and mentors throughout my time. Number 1, from one of my mentors, Mark Place. Never say no for the client. This isn't never say no to the client. This is never say no for the client. Oh, the client will go for that. Well, the client will never go for that. No, ask them. Don't say no for the client. Oh, that bill rate's probably too high. There's no way that anybody is ever going to pay $120 an hour for my services. No, do not say no for the client. Ask them. Present that idea. Present that bill rate. Do not say no to the client. Let them say no to you. Number 2, from an old friend, Dennis Burton. Perception is reality. To steal a line from Mike's talk this morning, if you saw it. If everybody thinks that you're a jerk, then you're a jerk. If everybody thinks that you're a commodity, then you're a commodity. If everybody thinks that you're inadequate as a developer, as a consultant, then you are. Perception is reality. So take care of that perception, take care of that network, take care of that reputation, because the perception of you is the reality of you. Number 3, Jay Harris, or earlier Jeff Strauss, or earlier Mike Eaton, because all of us as consultants, as experienced consultants, say the same thing. How much work do you do without a contract? 0. Always, always, always have a contract. Be an expert, not a commodity. You are an expert in something. No, I'm not really an expert. Yeah, you are. I'm just another software developer. Everybody can do that. My mother can't do what you do. My mother can't do what I do. My clients can't do what I do. That's why they come to me to do it. Be an expert, not a commodity. If you're a commodity, you're a roll of toilet paper, trying to get as close to 1 cent per roll or less as possible. Commodities are a price tag race to the bottom. Experts make money. Commodities don't. Be an expert, not a commodity. And finally, always know the runway. Always know the runway. And what I mean by this is always, always, always know the health of your business. I can tell you right now, within a couple $1,000s, maybe even a couple $100, the balance of our corporate bank account. I can tell you right now, within a couple $100 or a couple $1,000, total payroll that goes out the door every month. I can tell you within a couple $100 or maybe a couple $1,000 what our total expenses are for the year. And from all of that, I know the runway, which is both how far out our sales pipeline is, its value, how much money is about to come in, and if all of it goes away, if all of our clients disappeared right now and our sales pipeline was empty right now, how long can I still make payroll before I have to start letting people go? I know all of that right now in my head because I am fully aware of the health and welfare of my business. I have to be. It's my job to be. So always know the runway. So we get back to the freedom shift. Again, this isn't a freedom quest. This is a freedom shift. There's a lot of really wonderful opportunities. I couldn't imagine at this point in my career going back to being a W-2 employee. At the same time, that might change 5 years from now. There's nothing to say that 5 years from now I won't be a W-2 employee. And of course, I mean for a different company. I am a W-2 employee of my own company, in addition to being its owner. But I can't imagine doing something different. But it's not this freedom quest. There are new responsibilities. There are new opportunities. There are new flexibilities. There are new expectations that are demanded of me as a part of this journey of being a business owner, as a part of being out on my own. The freedom just shifts from being an employee to being independent. So, is this quest for you? How do you begin? Well, start with your step one. Find your why. What's your why? Spend some time really considering and thinking about what your why is, because that's going to be the driver for the next 15 years. I know what my why is. Doesn't matter if you agree with it. Doesn't matter if you like my why. It's my why and my why alone. Once you have that why, well, this is a choose-your-own-adventure novel. You get to decide where you go from here. You decide if that why is good enough for you. You decide if you want to move on and start your own company. You get to decide what awesome that you're going to make. Thank you. We have like 1 minute, I think, for questions. Certainly, of course, Murphy's Law inevitably is that you're going to think of the best questions after you leave the room or turn off this video if you're watching it a couple weeks from now. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter, @jharris. Find me on LinkedIn. Email me, j@aranasoft.com. I'm always happy to field questions, especially for topics like this. So thank you very much.